Welcome everyone to Not That Media. My name is John, and today in the Horror Hideaway I'm just going to spend a bit of time going through my May 2024 horror haul. Having purchased a region-free Blu Ray player, I've been taking the opportunity to buy and catch up with films that I've either not had the opportunity to own or have special features or new scans that I just can't get in the UK. So come along with me as we have a look at my haul. So unlike my previous video, which I'm conscious went on for a very long time and didn't have a lot of effects and bits and pieces on it, I just want to go through these very quickly. They're going to come up, there'll probably be a little bit of text underneath to give you a couple of credentials about the release, but I'm going to go through these very quickly because these are things that I intend to cover in the podcast in the future and perhaps use for deep dives in future videos. We're going to start with a DVD. So the first DVD which we purchased was Cooties. Now, we saw this, I was not aware of this, Joe and I saw a trailer for another film. It has Elijah Wood and it has Rainn Wilson from The Office in it, which in a nutshell, these are school teachers who are suddenly inundated with zombie children. It is comedy horror, never saw it before, can't wait to watch it. So next, Steelbooks. The first is the Crow 4K, which was released earlier in this month. I have already done a separate video on this, so I'm not really going to spend a lot of time talking about this, but a solid recommend. The next is Rob Zombie's 31. This is a Lionsgate Steelbook Blu Ray. Hadn't any intention of purchasing it, but I saw it on eBay for a relatively cheap price, and I didn't own it on Blu Ray, so I thought, why not? Main reason to buying it is it has a comprehensive 2-hour documentary. Say what you want about Rob Zombie when it comes to his films, but his DVD and Blu Ray extras are always top notch when it comes to behind the scene and production diaries. So next I'm going to go through probably what I would refer to as the miscellaneous pile, so from many different organizations. This is a Region A Blu Ray, which I was not intending to buy, but I did buy, and it is Silent Night, Deadly Night 3, 4 and 5. Now, the main reason I wanted to purchase this is purely because of the insanity that sounds like Silent Night, Deadly Night 3, which features fan favorite Bill Moseley in a part where a murderer's head is removed and brain transplanted into his body. So effectively, this is Bill Moseley walking around with a goldfish bowl on his head with a brain in it, similar to the dog in Fallout New Vegas. It just sounded too crazy. I've seen the first two. First one's great, second one was average. It just looked balmy. The next one, Silent Night, Deadly Night 4, has Clint Howard in it. It looks to be very strange and full of worms and cult imagery. It looked very sick. And the fifth one features an actor, let's have a look, Mickey Rooney, who ironically, having hated the franchise for the first one and publicly chastised Silent Night, Deadly Night, features in Silent Night, Deadly Night 5. Now, crazily enough, this is a major collector's edition that I managed to get hold of. 3 discs in one box set, and they have comprehensive extras. It's got commentaries, interviews. Bill Moseley's on this being interviewed about it. It's crazy that 3 films that are, let's be honest, the lower end of the horror gene pool have got such attention, but why not? Next is Children Should Not Play with Dead Things. I purchased this on sale at HMV. I wanted to get it. It's a old school 1972 Bob Clark, who would go on to make Black Christmas and Christmas Story. Also made Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. It involves a camera crew going to an island to be attacked by zombies. Has a few special features and things in it, but I just wanted to see it because it's always been on the list of zombie films you should watch. So $9.99, you can't go wrong. Next is Count Dracula, one that I am quite excited to watch. Now, Christopher Lee, if you're a horror fan, you'll be fully aware of his time as Dracula, but this is not a Hammer release, which is what really interested me. And in fact, Christopher Lee has gone on record as saying that this depiction of Dracula is his favourite and how he wanted Dracula to be. I had a very quick look at it. It is apparently, at the time, the most faithful adaptation of Bram Stoker's original. It's got a plethora of extras. It's got an interview, an old school radio interview with Christopher Lee. That's what happens when you record multiple back to back. It's got Christopher Lee talking about his time on the production, and from what little I saw, it looked really good. This is a region-free Blu-ray and is a new release as well. Last in the miscellaneous is the Monster Squad. Now, Monster Squad is another Blu-ray of a film that I have been waiting a very long time to see. It's always on people's lists. It's always on people's YouTube channels. It's effectively Goonies meets the Universal Monsters, from what I understand. pattern. So a group of children end up in the path of the Wolfman, the Mummy, and Dracula. It's not full-on horror, but it is always in people's favourite horror collections. So again, this is a Region 1 Blu-ray. I was really happy to get my hands on that, and that will be covered in the future. So one thing, and I'm going to highlight this because it is a purchase, Freddy's Nightmares on Blu-ray. Now, I purchased this off a seller on eBay who, for all intents and purposes, seemed to claim that this was a real Blu-ray. Now, the truth of the matter is, having done some investigation afterwards and after receiving a Blu-ray with 2 blank discs in it, the episodes are all there, the menus are all there, but in effect, what I then found out was that Freddy's Nightmares has had no DVD, Blu-ray release. It has never been reshown on television since its original broadcast, and the only way to watch this is either to own all the VHSs or to obtain this via less than legal means. I purchased this with the full intention of it being a real Blu-ray when I saw it. The price I paid for it was reflective of that, is what I would say, but it does contain all 44 episodes of Freddy's Nightmares. If you don't know what Freddy's Nightmares is, in essence it's a kind of creep show, Tales from the Crypt, Twilight Zone show, but it's hosted by Freddy Krueger himself. And the importance of this is the very first episode actually shows perhaps the most comprehensive origin story of Freddy Krueger. I know the films have depicted him with the dream worms and all this kind of stuff, but I recognise the very first episode, which is directed by Tobe Hooper as well, as the official origin story of Freddy Krueger. It's told from Freddy's perspective. It is Freddy's nightmare when he appears on screen. The first thing he says is,
"No, no, no! Don't be afraid! This time, it isn't one of your nightmares. This one was mine."
Yeah, I'm going to show that I purchased it. Like I say, at the time of purchase, I was fully aware that, or fully of the thought that it was real. Unfortunately, it's not. So buyer beware. If you're somebody, and I'm one of these people who don't necessarily always like to buy things like this, just be mindful of that, is what I would say. If you prefer to keep your collections real, for lack of a better word, this is not one for you. However, there are 1 or 2 other copies appearing on eBay at the time of recording. This month's documentary release is only 2 documentaries, and I'm really happy for one of them, and another I hadn't really seen before, but I'll go through that in a little bit of detail. So the first I was able to get hold of is Unearthed and Untold, the making of Pet Sematary. In the same way as Just Desserts and things like Pennywise, the story of it, this is a deep dive into the production, pre-production, post-production of Pet Sematary. It has almost every single member of the cast. I don't believe Stephen King is in this again. Long holdout Stephen King does not make an appearance outside of archive footage and photos. But if you're a fan of the original Pet Sematary like me, this was a real good find. Again, I managed to get this considerably cheaper on eBay, but it shows as being available on Amazon, but every time you go on Amazon, you can't view it. And buying this is a rare item. So if you do see it, it is a recommend. I have had a quick look over it, and it's got so much good stuff in it. So yeah, solid recommend. This next item, and the picture that will appear is different because it's an interchangeable cover and I've changed it, is a little bit of an odd one in that I didn't know it existed, and it's not necessarily the kind of documentary I would go running to, not for any particular reason, but it's because it covers a film that I'm not a massive fan of. I should say. Now this is called Scream Queen, My Nightmare on Elm Street, and I'm going to read the back just because I'd never heard of this documentary, and as a Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Halloween fan, etc., etc., I'm always really interested to find new documentaries that can deep dive into lesser known films. Everyone knows the story of the first film. Everyone knows Johnny Depp's in the first film. But like Nightmare on Elm Street 2, it doesn't really get a lot of love. Now, I'm going to read this out. This is exactly as it is word for word. None of this is my language because I'm conscious. I want to be family friendly. I don't want to be triggering or upsetting anybody. I'm going to quote this word for word because unlike the others, I think this one's actually worth bringing up. So it says, "Some have called it the gayest horror movie ever made, but for Mark Patton, the star of A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, it was anything but a dream come true. Detailing the homophobia and AIDS phobia of 1985 as a closeted actor in Hollywood, Mark retraces his missteps on the path to stardom. 30 years after its initial release, Patton is hitting the road to set the record straight about the controversial sequel and the experience that halted his career before it even began. Confronting the cast and crew for the first time, Mark attempts to make peace with his past as well as embrace his legacy as cinema's first male scream queen. So, I don't want to go over this too much because, as I say, I want to keep this video quick and light, but maybe one for another day. I've heard the rumours about Nightmare on Elm Street 2 and the homoerotic tones and the homophobia and the metaphors used in Nightmare on Elm Street 2, which is, spoiler, the way to cure this feeling inside the main character is for him to fall in love with a woman and things like that. But it's one of those films that when I watched it, I didn't really read any of that. I read it as Freddy wants to come into our universe and he's going to go through the body of somebody else. That's it. So it's one of those that the film's got a lot of faults, Nightmare on Elm Street 2, but the apparent homophobia and is not something that I'm particularly aware of or versed in, but I might be wrong. Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is not one of my go-to Nightmare on Elm Streets, to be perfectly honest. I will normally go for 1, 3 or 7, or Freddy vs. Jason if I want a Freddy fix. So Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is not necessarily one that I've given a lot of attention, and I'm always open to have things challenged and to be shown things in different ways. So when I saw this, I couldn't find any record of it available to watch online. I couldn't find an official listing. I do believe this might have been a crowd-funded project in some way. This is a collector's edition that came with a nice case and things like that, so very pleased to get hold of that. But when I looked into it, the Blu Ray is extremely hard to find, so I was really pleased to get my hands on it. But I'm very intrigued to go through this and maybe cover this in a future video. But comment down below if that's something you're interested in. Like I say, I'm interested to be challenged with this one, because all the others, they have your normal showbiz stories, they have your normal behind-the-scenes dramas and things like that. But for a film to be outrightly accused of being homophobic and ruining the career of a closeted gentleman, for me, either I wasn't paying attention or I need to go back and look over this again. So I'm interested to watch this and interested to see how my perception of the movie will be changed afterwards. So this is going to be a real quick fire round because, as I said at the beginning of the video, one of my favourite things about owning a region-free Blu-ray player now is it gives me access to the American releases. All of the releases you're about to see, and they will specify for the others as well, are region A Blu-rays. This might sound condescending, but some people genuinely don't know. If you're buying a Blu-ray from America or other countries, always check the region compatibility. Region A is the USA, Region B is Europe, and frankly I don't know what Region C is because I've never had to get a Region C Blu-ray. Region 1 Blu-rays, or Region A I should say, Region 1 is for DVD, Region A are locked. So if you purchase any of these based on seeing it and you don't have a multi-region Blu-ray player, they will not work. But let's go through this very quickly. So first, another Steelbook 4K brand new release, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. This is the 35th anniversary Steelbook 4K and Blu-ray. So this one is actually slightly an exception to the rule in that the 4K inside this is region free. I haven't opened it yet, as you may be able to see. I've heard reports that this is the best scanned negative of the film itself. However, it is actually lacking in extras. I will be doing a deeper dive into this. I own the Arrow Blu-ray and I'll be doing a comparison to see actually, is it worth double dipping, or is it worth trading up if you're a fan of visuals, or you're happy to lose your extras for the visuals, or if you want to maintain both. But more on that another day. These are all old releases, but next this is the collector's edition of My Bloody Valentine. Again, the UK's never really had a good copy of My Bloody Valentine. I had a DVD which was of lesser quality, but this has got two versions of the film, the theatrical and the uncut version of the film. Some decent extras. It's in its original cardboard case, which is great, and it's great to obviously get my hands on another uncut version of the movie. So yeah, good recommend My Bloody Valentine. I don't feel it gets enough love. And don't be fooled with the game is Alone in the Dark. This is the movie which has got no bearing on the games whatsoever. It came out in 1982 and is one of the very first exposures of New Line Cinema making its appearance, the house that Freddie built and would go on to make Lord of the Rings and all those great films. This is one of its first releases, Alone in the Dark. I have yet to watch it, but I'm very excited. It has Jack Palance, who fans of Batman will recognise, and also many other films, including City Slickers 1 and 2. It has the fantastic Donald Pleasance, for once not playing a hero, not playing the Dr. Loomis style character, but is one of the killers. And it involves these three killers. It's got makeup effects by Tom Savini. It's right in the early 80s, so you know there's going to be some good stuff in there. One of the side stories that I really love about this in the documentary The House That Freddie Built is that Robert Shaye, brother of Insidious's Lin Shaye, stated that on the first day of set, Jack Palance refused to come out of his trailer because he didn't want to work at night and he didn't want to hurt people because he was anti-weapons. And Robert Shaye laughs in the documentary and says, well, Jack, it is called Alone in the Dark, and you are playing one of the serial killers. So I've been waiting to see this because apparently the film was edited or hashed together because of Jack Palance's refusal to be violent and work at night. So apparently Donald Pleasance and the other gentleman whose name I don't know gets a lot more screen time as a result of Jack Palance's refusal to work at night and be violent, even though he's in a horror film called Alone in the Dark. Real quick one, this one, just The Fog. I wanted to buy The Fog. I already own The Fog, but I wanted this for two reasons. One, it has an exclusive documentary interview with Jamie Lee Curtis, a modern interview, not a old one. And also, I wanted to get it because I'm meeting the actress Adrienne Barbeau, or hope to, when For the Love of Horror comes out in October. And this cover, unlike all the others, she's actually on the cover. So I wanted to buy this because of the Jamie Lee Curtis documentary and the cover art for signing later. But again, another solid release. If you're not bothered about the cover and you're not bothered about the Jamie Lee Curtis interview, you can pick up the UK equivalent of this. It's in a white case for considerably cheaper than I paid. Like I said, I already own it. The film The Fog is up there as one of my favourites. I think it's arguably my second favourite John Carpenter film after Halloween. Strong recommend if you haven't seen this. Next is just an old favourite of mine, Phantasm 2. I already own Phantasm 2 twice on Blu Ray, ironically, but again, the reason I wanted this was more because I liked the cover. It's another Scream Factory one, and I'm going to be totally frank with you guys, I paid £10 for this on eBay, so when I saw it, it was a real bargain. It goes for considerably more than that. It's got audio commentary, it's got interviews with Don Cascarelli and Angus Scrimm and Reggie Bannister. There's nothing on this release that you cannot pick up if you buy the box set of Phantasm. I don't think Phantasm sequels get independent releases in the UK, so if it's cheaper to pick up this than it is to buy the box set and you've got a region-free Blu-ray player, strong recommend Phantasm 2. Next quick fire is Exorcist II: The Heretic. Now, this is known for being a very bad film. It is known for having very, quote, interesting performances from Linda Blair and Richard Burton, one coming to the end of their career and one arguably at the start of their career. They had made very interesting choices in this film, from what I've been told. It is notorious for not being very good, but the reason I wanted this, because I am an Exorcist fan and I'm always interested in seeing different versions of films. This has two different versions of The Exorcist 2. It has a 102 theatrical minute version and an 117 extended minute version. So I'm very curious to see, is this one of those films where if you put more in it, it gets better, or it just becomes even more incoherent mess? It's got a new interview with Linda Blair. It's got new commentaries. It's got all kinds of bits and pieces in it. Again, I didn't pay a huge amount of this, and I just wanted it in my collection because, as I say, this film has got a legacy in front of and behind the scenes that is well worth looking into, and maybe I'll document it another day. Okay, we're getting to the bottom of the pile now, and I've got Day of the Dead on Scream Factory. Now, Day of the Dead, obviously I'm sure fans know, is the third of the Romero of the Dead movies. At the time, it was the third of a trilogy, but that has obviously extended past with Land and Diary and everything else of the Dead after this point. Main reason I wanted this, because you can pick up Day of the Dead on Arrow Blu-ray for a reasonably cheap price if you get the sale, and I do own that as well. But this has a documentary, an extensive 90-minute plus documentary called World's End: The Legacy of Day of the Dead. Whilst Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, etc. all get really good comprehensive documentaries, Day of the Dead's Arrow release was missing a solid documentary. So this was filmed years after that release came out, and I wanted it purely for that. Again, I paid paid a very, very moderate price for this. It was not high. I was really happy to get it. And plus, I absolutely love the artwork. So Stephen King fans should hopefully get a kick out of this, but this is one of the more wild films in the collection, in that people just look at it and go, what? And it is, of course, Stephen King's Sleepwalkers, directed by the absolutely fantastic Mick Garris, who is responsible for some of Stephen King's best adaptations: The Stand, The Shining. Sleepwalkers is a great film. He also did Psycho for the Beginning. He has a great podcast. I've got a lot of respect for Mick Garris. I think he's a really great guy, really interesting. Do check him out in his films. But this is an interesting one. It has Alice Creed in it, and she plays a sleepwalker, is what they're nicknamed, which is essentially a kind of a cat monster who, with her son, are the last of the sleepwalkers, and they've been moving from town to town, seducing and draining the souls of young virgins because that's what they feed on. And the only thing they are impervious to, not impervious to, I should say, sorry, is the scratch of a cat. So it's very interesting. It's known as well for having a scene that has got more famous horror cameos than probably any other. You've got Stephen King, Clive Barker, Mick Garris, Toby Hooper. There's one my brain is struggling to remember, even though he's a fantastic director. He did Gremlins and Burbs and loads of other stuff. But this is a mad film, is what I would say. It is great, but it is crazy. Don't expect high art cinema. Don't even expect like high level Shawshank Redemption Stephen King. This is a Friday night with your friends, couple of beers, get your popcorn, just have a little bit of a laugh, fun time. But I really enjoy this film. I think it's a great film. It's got new audio commentaries. It's got new interviews with Mick Garris and the actors and everything. I think this is a really good release. And I bought this, again, I'm not going to lie, I already owned the Blu Ray copy of this from the UK, but I just loved this artwork, so I had to get it. Last but no means least is Scream Factory's release of Silent Hill. I wanted this because it has a second disc that is full of extras not available in the UK. Now, if you are a fan of Silent Hill and you're just like happy to watch the film, again, you can pick this up for a few pounds in the UK off Amazon and HMV. But I wanted all the deep dive stuff, and it was nice to actually get a 2-disc edition of this film. It's got an alternative cover, which is the one here. There's probably a different cover showing up, but slightly timely because obviously we've just had the announcement and the teaser trailer for Return to Silent Hill, and Silent Hill 2 the game remake is now coming out in October. So just by complete coincidence, I just happened to see it. I wanted to get hold of it. Again, didn't pay a huge amount for it, but really pleased to have this in the collection. I just literally said last but no means least, and I put this down getting ready to record my outro, and I forget the one thing, the absolute prize that I managed to get my hands on this month, and I can't believe I didn't mention it. So here we go. I'm not going to go into this in much detail because I have a big video on this coming up, so if you're interested, do keep an eye out for that. But Scream Factory's ultimate, absolutely fantastic deluxe Friday the 13th edition on Blu-ray. I picked this up secondhand on eBay, I have to say, but this has every single Friday the 13th in it. It has 2 discs of extras. This is a prize item when it comes to purchasing Blu-rays. The reason I wanted this is, yes, I do own every single Friday the 13th. I own every single Friday the 13th, I think at least once, if not twice, is a couple of reasons. I wanted all the individual cases. I absolutely love the fact that these are given individual cases. They're not normally like this in other releases, but there is so much information in this set, so many Blu-ray special features, so much new content that you can only get in this box. From what I understand, this is to be regarded as the definitive end of the road release for Friday the 13th box sets. You ain't going to get any better than this unless they go the way of Halloween and release these in 4K. This is the only way, and even if they do the 4Ks, I doubt it's going to be in a box like this. So if you are a fan of Friday the 13th and a fan of the whole franchise, and you want to get each one in its own individual case with as much audio commentaries and extras as possible, it also contains contains uncut versions of the movie, some of the movies that has never been released outside of anywhere. Actually, sorry, I should say it's got the uncut version of Jason Goes to Hell that has never been commercially available. So this is a real prize. I paid considerably less than this is retailing for, and contrary to rumours, this is not sold out. So absolute prize item that is. I'm really proud to have that in my collection. Thank you for watching this video. I'm hoping it is a very quick fire. It's not designed to take up too much of your time, just to kind of showcase some of the things I've been buying. It's not to be boastful or to do anything like that. It's more out of a, I'm hopeful there's a desire to share the information. The majority of these special editions that I pick up these days are normally found because I watch other YouTubers who show these editions or mention these editions, and I think, oh, okay, I'm going to go have a look at that. And it can become a bit of a dangerous slope. If you buy a region-free Blu Ray player and then you go out of your way to buy as many films, like for me, that have been locked away for years and years and years because for whatever reason it's never got to the UK, that can be a dangerous slippery slope, I should say. So I would be mindful of that, that majority of these are region A, they are not region B, so please do not buy any of these off the back of this video and then realise it doesn't play unless you have the appropriate Blu-ray player. If you liked this video, please do give it a thumbs up. Please do comment. If there's anything within here that you're particularly interested in me covering, please do mention it. I think highlight of the month has got to be the Friday the 13th box set. I was really happy to get hold of that. The price I paid versus the prices I've seen was an absolute steal. I was so happy to get my hands on it. I did have to replace all the internal cases, but that was absolutely fine. That was more for me. So it cost me a little bit more. So I was happy that the cases were all nice and clean and things like that. But questionable release. I'm looking forward to the Scream Queens, the My Nightmare on Elm Street Blu-ray. I think that's going to be an interesting one. I think as it's an independent release and it does have Robert Englund and a lot of the cast and crew in it, and it is challenging the audience to look at this film in a very different way, I think it would be quite a nice duo piece to watch Nightmare on Elm Street 2 and then watch the documentary. Because like I say, legitimately, when I watch Nightmare on Elm Street 2, a lot of what this documentary is apparently claiming goes over my head. But then again, I was probably considerably younger, maybe a little bit more ignorant to those kind of things. And I just wanted to watch a good film of Freddy Krueger slashing people up, to be honest. So please do, if you have recommendations, if there's anything you want to see, give us a shout out. Please do like and subscribe. And until the next time, stay scared.